to all the Tennessee fans, you know I love you guys, and all the support you've shown the channel has been amazing, and that's really a large portion of our community. But here's all I gotta say to you. Good luck. You're gonna need it. Welp, you see it right here. The day has officially come. After all these years making fun of Chattanooga State Water Aquarium Community College, Alabama, my team, is playing them this Saturday. I just thought that was funny because we've been making that joke for a while, and what's the odds we're actually playing them? But on a serious note, we're not here to preview that game because nobody cares. Alabama's going to beat them by about 30. But Chattanooga, I believe they're like 7-3 or something, so they got a good ball club. We are here to talk about the big time, arguably the biggest game on Saturday. We got Tennessee and Georgia. And finally, I can officially say this. Georgia is the #1 team in the country. They've always been my #1 team, but you know how the committee was doing them wrong the first couple of rankings. They are matching up with the Tennessee Volunteers, who are coming off a complete butt whooping against Mizzou, in which they lost 36-7. It was bad. And I have no idea what the line is for this game. I don't even know what Tennessee's ranked. I forgot what the rankings had them at. I think they're in the top 20, but I'm going to assume on the top of my head, this game is in Neyland Stadium. Yeah, it's in Neyland Stadium because last year was in Athens, Georgia. I'm going to say Georgia's probably a 14-point favorite. Let's check it out. Okay, got to pull it up right here. Tennessee dropped to 18, and wow, Georgia's only a 10-point favorite. If I was a betting man, which I'm not, I'd be eating up that 10-point line. I don't care that it's in Neyland Stadium. Don't care. And I also don't care that it's a rival game. I'd take Georgia easily -10. This is also the 2:30 CBS game of the week, and this game would have been 10 times more hype if Tennessee would have beat Missouri. But since they're sitting at 7-3, the game means nothing really in the grand scheme of things for the SEC because Georgia's going to the SEC championship. The hype has died down substantially. Does that make sense? What was the word I was looking for there? I don't know. Maybe that does make sense, but if it doesn't make any sense, I apologize. We're just going to roll with it. We're rolling with the punches. And anytime I preview a game like this where Georgia is the clear and obvious favorite, I look for one thing. Where does Tennessee or where does any team have the advantage? And I'll just throw this out there right now. I think Georgia's B- game is still good enough to beat this Tennessee team because Tennessee's not very good. Alabama didn't even play great against Tennessee, especially in the first half, and still beat them by double digits. Tennessee also got their butt whooped. They didn't just lose, they got their butt whooped by a Missouri team in which Georgia beat soundly. So let's not try to act like this is going to be a big heavyweight matchup. Tennessee can win this game, no question about it. They're not a top 20 team for no reason, but it's not one of those Alabama versus Georgia type of games. You could argue and say Alabama is just as good as Georgia, but you couldn't argue and say that Tennessee is just as good as Georgia. There's a difference. So with that being said, some things are going to have to go Tennessee's way for them to pull an upset or even be in this game. Because after watching that miserable performance against Missouri, and I hate to keep going back to it, but I got to because it just happened last week. Well, like I was saying, going back to the Missouri game and now trying to preview this game, it leaves me in a very odd predicament here. Because going off of what I saw last week, on one side of it, you have Georgia kill a top 10 team. On the other side of it, you have Tennessee get embarrassed. There's no reason for me to even believe for a split second Tennessee's even going to compete in this game. Going off of what I saw last week, I should sit up here and say, oh yeah, Georgia's going to win by 30. But, and I have a really big but, you better believe this, I don't think that's going to be the case. This is a big-time rival matchup, and not all the times, but I'd say 80% of the time, you can throw the record out the window. It's a rival matchup. There's bad blood there, and this, essentially speaking, now that I think about it, is Tennessee's Super Bowl. Their season's over. They're not going to the SEC championship. They're going to play in some Cheez-It, Gator Bowl, Pop-Tart Bowl. Doesn't matter. They don't care about that. This is their championship game. They're playing the #1 team in the country. I full-on expect Tennessee to give way more effort and play better than they did against Mizzou. Maybe they don't. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but I expect them to. I was real close to getting up here and saying, well, guys, it depends on what Tennessee team we see on Saturday. I was going to get up here and say something like this. Okay, which Tennessee team are we going to see? Are we going to see the bad Tennessee team that struggled and didn't even score against Alabama in the second half, that looked pathetic against Mizzou, and also looked pathetic against Florida? Or are we going to see the good side of Tennessee, but when you look at it, there isn't a good side of Tennessee. Their 3 toughest games this year have been against Missouri, Florida, and Alabama. Those were their 3 toughest opponents, and in all 3 of those games, they wet the bed. So now, this being their 4th toughest opponent, and the toughest opponent out of them all up until this point, why would I believe it's going to be any different? Your 3 hardest games this year, you've laid an egg in every single one of them. You laid an egg against Florida, you laid an egg in the second half against Alabama, and you laid an egg against Missouri. And I know everybody's going to bring this up, and it's a great point, and I'm getting to it. All 3 of those games weren't home games, though, so that could be the kicker. We all know this. Tennessee is a different team at home. It's just a different place up there in Neyland Stadium. It's awesome. I was up there a couple years ago when Alabama played them. It's a great environment if they're winning and things are going their way. If you jump out on them early and take the fans out of the game, it's not even a real toxic environment. But if they stay in the game, it's crazy. Maybe against Georgia, if they score first, like every team does against Georgia, they can feed off of that energy. But I've been really close to coming to this executive decision that I don't care that this game's at home. You haven't looked good against a good team. And I can't harp on that enough. I'll show you their schedule right here. Point to a game in which Tennessee has looked good against a good team. You can't find it. Arguably their best performance this year was their road win against Kentucky, and we all saw what Alabama and Georgia did against Kentucky. Outside of that, there's not a game you point to and you go, oh yeah, Tennessee really impressed me. So that's concerning. And one thing Tennessee struggled with against Missouri was, number one, stopping the run and also trying to run the ball themselves. And I got some bad news for Tennessee fans. You ain't going to run on this Georgia team. It ain't going to happen. You saw what happened last year, and it's going to be the same thing this year. So that essentially means Joe Milton is going to have to go out there and beat Georgia. And I don't think that's going to happen either. He only plays good when he has help with the rushing attack. I thought Joe Milton played decent last week, but if he doesn't have help in the running game, it doesn't amount to anything. He's not good enough, and he hasn't even proven he's good enough to beat a team by himself. I don't see Tennessee seeing much success at all against that Georgia defense. I'll say this right now. I'd be shocked if Tennessee scored more than 20 points. On the flip side of the ball for Tennessee, here's where things get even worse, and this is the worst news out of everything. They allowed over 200 yards to one guy last week, Schrader, the running back for Mizzou. If you couldn't stop Missouri's rushing attack, you're going to be in for a rude awakening Saturday. Georgia will run the ball every single play if you can't stop them. They got no problem doing that. And Georgia's rushing attack is one of the most underrated rushing attacks, not just in the SEC, but in the country. I also expect Carson Beck on first and second down to roll off of that play action and make some great throws and play as great as he's been playing all year long. Carson Beck is one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, and I think he's a top, I'd say 12 or 10 quarterback in the nation. Let's go back to Joe Milton, though. We know Georgia and Carson Beck, that offense, they're going to score points. But how can Tennessee keep up? You know what I'm about to say. Joe Milton has got to, and I mean he's got to play out of his mind. But here's the biggest question. Can he against this Georgia defense? Well, for starters, to predict how he could possibly do against this Georgia defense, you got to find another good defense he's already played this year, and that's Alabama's defense. Alabama and Georgia, they have a similar play style and defense and similar schemes. And against Alabama, Joe Milton was really good. 28 for 41. You'll take that. 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 INTs, and a QBR right at 74. I wouldn't just say he played decent in the Bama game. I would say he played really good. He was solid. But what hurt Tennessee in this Bama game is they had to settle for a couple of field goals, and he missed a couple passes here and there, including a touchdown. Against a defense like Alabama and Georgia, you can't just make 7 out of 10 throws. You got to make almost 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10. You have to play like a Johnny Manziel. You got to play like a Tim Tebow, or Joe Burrow. The list goes on. You got to hit every single throw. And I think Joe Milton's good enough to make 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 throws, but not 9 out of 10. Because there's going to be a couple of throws I'd be willing to bet. There's going to be 5 or 6 deep balls against Georgia that he's going to have a good shot at completing those. If he can complete all the deep passes, Tennessee will be in this game. But if he can only complete 40, 50% of them, they won't be in this game. The margin for error against a team like Georgia, it is so minuscule. You can't even see it on paper. So if Tennessee wants a shot, Joe Milton, you see this right here, 28 for 41. No. He's got to go 35 for 41, something like that. And also, this is something that's not going to show up in the stat sheet. Tennessee has to make big-time plays on big-time downs. Against Alabama, they had not one but 2 4th and 1s they couldn't get. Tennessee has to be extremely good on 3rd down, and if they go for it, they have to be perfect on 4th down. When it's early in the first quarter or first half and it's 3rd and 4, that's arguably one of the biggest plays of the game. You got to get the 3rd and 5 and lowers. That sounded so dumb, but you get what I'm trying to say. When it's 3rd and 5 or less, you got to get at least 80% of those. You don't got to be a superhero, but you got to make timely plays and big-time plays at that. Much easier said than done, but that's what I think it's going to take. It comes down to this for me. I don't think Tennessee's going to score on Georgia, and I think Georgia's going to have a field day on that Tennessee defense. So with that being said, you know where I'm going going with this. I think Georgia's going to blow them out. Georgia's going to walk into their home stadium and beat them like a drum. It's going to be bad, man. And I mean bad, really bad. And it's going to get ugly quick. I don't care. It's a home game for Tennessee. Georgia wins this one easily. I got Georgia winning 45. Yeah, I was going to say 49. We'll go 45-17. 45-17. It's going to be a similar outcome as the Ole Miss game and what's the game? Oh, yeah, the Kentucky game. Georgia's going to have their way on offense and defense. Tennessee has no shot. People understand a little bit, but I don't think they understand completely just how dominant this Georgia team is. They have no weaknesses. I'll put it to you like this. If Tennessee kept it to a single score game, under 10 points, I'd be impressed. In my humble opinion, I think this game could get so bad so quick, you start having Tennessee fans questioning whether Josh Heupel is the guy or not. Georgia flat out embarrassed you last year, and they're going to do it again. To all the Tennessee fans, you know I love you guys, and all the support you've shown the channel has been amazing, and that's really a large portion of our community. But here's all I got to say to you. Good luck. You're going to need it. Good luck, Tennessee. Good luck. Let me know your thoughts down below. But